That call you just heard, soon we'll be seeing the clamp arms. Actually, it looks like I can see a little movement now, those opening up. Then the strong back will pull away from the Falcon 9 rocket about 13 degrees or so. There you can see a movement. Again, this first stage booster you see there on your screen, flying for a 23rd time today, having supported a number of important missions for SpaceX and its various customers. Those included NASA's DART mission, or the Double Asteroid Redirection Test, back in November of 2021. Transporter 7 on April 15th of 2023. Its most recent flights were 3 supporting the NRO's so-called proliferated constellation, or proliferated architecture constellation.
Stage 1, LOX load complete.
Good call on LOX load on stage 1. Just waiting for stage 2 liquid oxygen loading to wrap up. Star shields were the latest order of business for this booster. For its last 3 flights, those were NROL 113, 167, and 149 to help build out that constellation. Starshield, of course, are the government variant of the Starlink satellites. Have different capabilities depending on their government customers' needs. Should be hearing a call shortly for stage 1 LOX load.
Stage 2, LOX load complete.
Excuse me, stage 2 LOX load. Ground gas close. Clearing out the feed lines prior to liftoff here, coming up in just a little more than a minute. Want to quickly thank Super Tech Boy for a $2 super chat, saying fun to clone Will Robinson for more coverage. Certainly could use a clone these days. Lots to cover, lots to do.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
And with that good call, we're just waiting for the SpaceX launch director to give their go for launch, and we'll be ready to send this rocket on its way.
Launch director, go for launch.
And with that call, we are now a little more than 30 seconds away from liftoff. So we're going to go ahead and step back, listen to those final 30 seconds, and we'll be back with more commentary on the other side of liftoff.
30 seconds. T-minus 15 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. Liftoff of the Falcon 9. Go SpaceX, go Starlink.
Falcon is mission downrange.
MOD repulsion nominal.
Power and telemetry nominal. Vehicle is supersonic. Max Q.
And a good start to the mission here from SpaceX, about a minute and a half into flight. We'll shortly be hearing the call for MVAC chill as they thermally condition the Merlin vacuum engine prior to its first ignition.
MVAC in flight chill.
Good call there. We'll now be moving towards a few different events in fairly rapid succession as we approach the 2-minute mark. We'll see first stage main engine cutoff, or MECO. That'll be followed by stage separation just before the 2.5-minute mark. And then the Merlin vacuum engine will ignite a few seconds after separation. The payload fairings will be deployed just before the 3-minute point in flight.
MECO.
Stage separation confirmed.
MVAC ignition.
All good call-outs, all good events here that you're seeing live on your screen. The deployment of those hypersonic grid fins.
Fairing separation confirmed.
And those Starlink satellites now exposed to the vacuum of space for the first time on this mission. Next milestone coming up here will be at about T plus 6 minutes and 4 seconds. That'll be the ignition of 3 of the Merlin engines on the Falcon 9 first stage booster for the start of the entry burn. That burn lasting about 23 seconds in total. Those puffs you're seeing in between the hypersonic grid fins, those are the cold gas thrusters at work, helping to control the attitude of the first stage booster. Speaking of that first stage, it looks like it has reached its apogee here today at about 116 kilometers in altitude. So far appears to be a nominal flight for both stages. You can see the second stage now getting a little sunlight on the engine belt. Now a little more than 5 minutes into flight, less than a minute away from the start of the first stage entry burn.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
You can see a nice bit of the curvature of the Earth there, just beyond the entry burn.
Stage 1 entry burn shutdown.
Nice little peek of the sunrise as that booster continues to make its way towards the drone ship. Of course, I still love you.
Stage 1 FTS is saved.
Booster flying today is the second most flown out of SpaceX's current arsenal of first stage boosters, having made its first appearance back on November 21st of 2020. Coming up at the start of the landing
Stage
burn
1
here.
transonic.
Beautiful sunrise
Stage
just
2
off
FTS
the
is saved.
edge of the grid fin there. Just about 10 seconds away from the start of the first stage landing burn, when SpaceX will use just one of the Merlin engines to make the final descent
Stage 1
touchdown.
landing burn. Landing leg deployed. Stage 1 landing confirmed.
And a 23rd landing for that booster.
And back shutdown.
And at this point, the Falcon 9's upper stage has entered into a parking orbit where it will continue to coast until about T plus 57 minutes on the dot. There will be a brief 1-second burn, setting up the Starlink satellites to be deployed at T plus 1 hour, 3 minutes, and 53 seconds. Want to briefly thank Michael Helmick for a very generous $25 super chat. Appreciate you, Michael. Let's go ahead and check in on our mission stats as they currently stand with the good liftoff and landing of the first stage booster. This is actually the 23rd flight of Falcon 9 booster 1063, the 428th Falcon 9 launch to date. This was the 11th Falcon 9 launch of 2025, the 372nd Falcon booster reflight, or the launch of a booster that has flown at least once. Without any Falcon Heavies yet on the year, this is also the 11th orbital launch for SpaceX of the year so far, the 138th orbital launch within the last 365 days. This marked the 110th SpaceX orbital launch from Space Launch Complex 4 East and the 199th overall orbital launch from that pad as well. Moving on to some recovery stats. This was the 118th booster landing on the drone ship. Of course, I still love you. That marks the 320th SpaceX drone ship landing and the 401st Falcon booster landing so far. Finally, with some industry stats, this was the 4th launch of the year from Vandenberg Space Force Base there in California, the 12th launch from U.S. soil, the 12th from a U.S. rocket company, and the 18th from around the globe, with 0 mishaps on the year so far. I want to pause briefly before we get to the pie chart here. As some of you may have noticed from our tweet yesterday, the public scoping has now wrapped up as an environmental impact statement is being prepared for both the transformation to be allowed at Space Launch Complex 6 there at Vandenberg to allow for Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy launches from the West Coast. At the same time, the Department of the Air Force is also examining increasing the number of launches allowed by SpaceX there at Vandenberg, with the addition of that second pad from its current number of 50 to up to 100 per year between both pads. Public input is still available to be sent in through Monday. So if you have a comment, question, concern, or just a note that you want to drop them, you can go back to the tweet that we posted yesterday, and you can find the link on how to submit that and information about that pad transformation. But for folks in and around the area of Vandenberg, obviously this will impact you the most. So if you want your voice to be heard, now's the time to do it.